Mole joined the Riverbankers one fine spring day many years ago. He had been spring cleaning his house when the urge got to him to go up top and take the fresh air. Many other creatures were out and about.
Father Oblo hangs spring cleaning.
It was a perfect morning, and so he scrabbled and scraped, working busily with his paws until at last his snout came out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm grass. Off he shot across the meadows, along the hedgerows, through the copses, finding flowers budding, leaves thrusting, everything happy. He thought his happiness was complete when suddenly he found himself down by the river.
My oh my, what's this? It shivers and shakes and glints and gleams.
Never in his life had he seen a river before. He stopped and listened to its mischievous chuckling as it flowed along its way. As he sat there and looked across the river, a dark hole in the bank opposite caught his eye.
What a lovely dwelling place that would make.
Then, as he looked, a small boat began to gradually appear. Framed like a picture, it was the Water Rat.
Hello, Mole. Hello, Rat. Would you like to come over? Oh, it's all very well to talk.
Well, Rat did no more than untie his little wooden boat. Mole then stepped gingerly up into it.
Did you know I've never been in a boat before in all my life? What? Never been in a... You never... Well, what have you been doing then? Is it nice as all that? Nice is the only thing. Believe me, my young friend, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, half so much worth doing as simply messing about in boats. Messing about in boats, or with boats.
Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. In boats, out of boats, I don't really care. Nothing seems to matter so long as I am there. Big boats, little boats, they all have their charm. On a river, in a pond, waters vast or calm. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. To-ing and fro-ing, there's so much to do. Fixing and fiddling to boats old and new. Busy doing nothing but having lots of fun. Spending time by waterside, whether rain or sun. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. What a way to spend a day going on a trip. Have a lovely picnic, lemonade to sip. Cooked ham and cold beef, pickled gherkins too. Salad, cream and watercress, all for me and you. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats. Messing in boats, messing in boats. There's nothing so nice as messing in boats.
Look here, Mole, it's just nothing on hand this morning. Supposing we drop down the river together and have a long day of it. What a day I'm having. Let us start at once.
And so began the long friendship between Mole and Rat. One bright summer morning, whilst Rat was sitting on the riverbank singing a little song he had just composed,
Oats, oats, I really like oats.
Mole approached him to ask a favour.
What I came to ask you was, won't you take me to call on Mr. Toad? I do so want to make his acquaintance.
Why certainly. Get the boat out and we'll paddle up there at once. It's never the wrong time to call on Toad. Early or late, he's always the same fellow. Always glad to see you, always sorry when you go.
Well, they set off, and before long they had turned the bend in the river and arrived at Toad Hall. They moored the boat in Toad's boathouse and joined him on the lawn.
Hello, fellows. I was just going to send a boat down the river for you. With strict orders, you were going to be fetched up here at once, whatever you were doing. Delightful residence. Finest house in the whole river, or anywhere for that matter. All right, Ratty. It's only my way, you know, and it's not such a very bad house. Look here, I need your help.
It's about your rowing, I suppose.
Oh, pooh. Boating. Silly boyish amusement. No, I've given that up long ago. It was sheer waste of time and energy. I found the real way to travel, the only occupation for a lifetime. Come with me, dear Ratty, and your amiable friend, and you shall see what I shall.
Well, Toad led them out into the stable yard, and there stood his latest pride and joy, a gypsy caravan. Mole was tremendously interested and excited as Toad showed them all around the caravan, pronouncing all of its virtues. Rat only snorted and thrust his hands deep into his pockets. To Rat's surprise, Toad declared that they were setting off that afternoon on an adventure.
It all started off well and good. Charged with excitement, they ambled along country lanes, camped on commons and cooked on an open fire, but then a disaster struck.
They were strolling along the road, Mole leading the horse, Toad doing all of the talking and Ratty doing all of the listening, when a faint sound was heard. Glancing around, they saw a small cloud of dust advancing on them, while from out of the centre of the dust came faint poop poop, wailing like an uneasy animal.
Suddenly, with a blast of wind and a whirl of a sound, it was on them. They barely had a moment's glimpse of the motor car as it sped by, scattering the old brown horse and the caravan into a ditch on the side of the road.
You villains, you scoundrels, you hoverin', you road hog! I'll have the law of you, I'll paw you, I'll take you all through the court!
Toad sat straight down in the middle of the dusty road and stared fixedly at the disappearing motor car, muttering at intervals.
Peep, peep! Are you coming to help us, Toad? The glorious stirring sight, the poetry in motion, the only way to travel. Oh bliss, oh poop poop! Oh stop being an ass, Toad! And to think that I never knew all that lays ahead. Oh poop poop! Poop poop? Poop poop?
Such a delight, tearing down the byway, stirring up the dust, but rushing in the open road, the love of that toilets. Poo-poo, poo-poo, oh what a sight, poo-poo, poo-poo, such a delight for me.
Necklace, carefree as I speed along my way, scattering cart horses to wagons full of hay, hamlets, skid towns too, always running fast, kicking up the dust clouds as I go racing past.
Poo-poo, poo-poo, oh what a sight, poo-poo, poo-poo, such a delight, tearing down the byway, stirring up the dust, but rushing in the open road, the love of that toilets. Poo-poo, poo-poo, oh what a sight, poo-poo, poo-poo, such a delight for me.
Wasted years, time gone by, lots of ill time spent, pressuring pointless passions. Oh, it was a crime. I never knew, I never dreamt of all that lay ahead. But now I know, I realize my passion will be fed.
Poo-poo, poo-poo, oh what a sight, poo-poo, poo-poo, such a delight, tearing down the byway, stirring up the dust, but rushing in the open road, the love of that toilets. Poo-poo, poo-poo, oh what a sight, poo-poo, poo-poo, such a delight for me.
Caravans, houses, boats, racing powers too, exciting moments, seeking out pleasures old and new. Waterways, open heat, the quiet and the calm, but motor cars, that's their life, the power, speed and charm.
Poo-poo, poo-poo, oh what a sight, poo-poo, poo-poo, such a delight, tearing down the byway, stirring up the dust,
flowing through my veins, it's surging through my blood. I need to be there, behind the wheel, the edge, it feels so good to race away down leafy lanes, reckless without care. Majestic motor, king of road, you're my love affair.
Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, oh what a sight. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, such a delight. Tearing down the byway, stirring up the dust, we're rushing in the open road, the love will pass on us. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, oh what a sight. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, such a delight for me.
There was nothing to be done with Toad, he was now possessed. He had a new craze, it always took him that way in its first stage.
Now look here, as soon as we get to town, you must go straight to the police station and see who that motor car belongs to and lodge a complaint. Police station? You can't do that to me.
Rat did his best to persuade Toad to go to the police station and report the motorist, then get the caravan repaired. But he was wasting his time. Toad would hear none of it. All he could think of from that moment on was motorcars. The thought of them flowed through his veins. He was spellbound, entranced, bewitched. When they reached the town, they went straight to the station and deposited Toad on a slow train that went close by Toad Hall. The very next day, Toad went up to the town and ordered a very large and expensive car.
Mole had long wanted to make an acquaintance with Badger, but whenever Mole mentioned his wish to Rat, he always found himself put off with comments like,
You'll turn up someday.
One winter's day, when Rat was fast asleep, Mole decided he would go explore the wild wood by himself and maybe strike up an acquaintance with Badger. At first entry there was nothing to alarm him. Twigs cracked under his feet, logs tripped him, but that was all fun. As he penetrated further, everything became still.
He quickened his pace, telling himself to stop imagining things.
Oh, stop imagining things.
He hurried forward, panic setting in. He began to run aimlessly into things, over things, under things, anywhere. Eventually he took refuge in the dark, deep hollow of an old tree. Rat meanwhile dozed by the fireside, dreaming of his beloved rivers, when suddenly a coal slipped, sending up a spurt of flame. With a start he awoke and looked around, gathering his senses. He realised Mole was not about when he called him.
Molly, Molly!
Something was wrong, he sensed. He set off for the wild wood at brisk pace.
Molly, Molly, where are you? It's me, it's old Ratty. Ratty, is that really you? I've been so frightened, you can't think.
Rat fully understood, and after resting they prepared to set off for home. Stepping outside the old tree, they soon discovered it was snowing hard.
Snowflakes fall, making branches glisten. Snowflakes fall. Snowflakes fall, making branches glisten. Snowflakes fall, falling like a whisper, passing all around, coating all the floor, letting its petals softly Snowflakes fall, making branches glisten. Snowflakes fall. Snowflakes fall, making branches glisten. Snowflakes fall. Such a snowy cold night, wind was blowing hard. Snow fell down and all around, looked just like a pretty Christmas card.
It was one of those short winter days when the sheep were huddling together against the hurdles, blowing out of thin nostrils and stamping delicate forefeet. That sound the two animals plodding across the ploughed fields. Suddenly, Mole froze in his tracks as if electrified.
What's that? Home? It must be close by. My old home. I can smell it in the air. It draws me, hurriedly forsaken.
The call was clear, the summons plain. He must obey it instantly.
Ratty, come back. I want you. Quick!
But the rat continued plodding along in front.
Oh, come along, Mole, do. Please stop, Ratty. It's my old home. It's in the air. And I want you. Quick, please.
Rat by this time was very far ahead, too far to hear clearly what Mole was saying.
Mole, we must have stopped now, really. We'll come for it tomorrow, whatever it is you found. It's late and I'm not sure of the way.
Poor Mole stood alone in the road, his heart torn asunder and a big sob gathering. Torn between loyalty for his friend and the pleading wafts from his old home, his heartstrings were wrenched asunder. His whole body shook with uncontrollable tears.
What is it, old fellow? Whatever can be the matter? Tell us your trouble and let me see what I can do. I know it's just a shabby, dingy little place, and it's not like your cosy quarters or Toad's great hall, but I was quite fond of it. But then I went away and forgot all about it until I smelt it suddenly, and I just really wanted you to come back, but you wouldn't listen. And oh, Ratty, oh dear,
My home, shabby and small, underground, nothing at all. Happy days I once spent in my old home.
Take a trip down memory lane, fondest dreams alive once more, seeking out familiar faces, times and places gone before.
My home, shabby and small, underground, nothing at all. Happy days I once spent in my old home.
Memories of olden days come flooding back to you again. Not a care, a life full of laughter, skipping down the country lanes.
My home, shabby and small, underground, nothing at all. Happy days I once spent in my old home.
Nothing vast like Badger's great house, nothing grand like Toad's fine home. So well planned, so very cozy, matters not if large or small.
My home, shabby and small, underground, nothing at all. Happy days I once spent in my old home.
Come on, old fellow. Let's go and find that old home of yours.
Still snuffling, pleading, and reluctant, Mole was dragged back along the road by his companion. They moved on in silence for a little while, when Mole suddenly stood rigid for a moment, with his uplifted nose quivering in the air. Short faltering steps, followed by quick jerky runs, and then scrambling through a hedge and across a dry ditch. Then Mole dived down a deep passage in the ground.
Rat followed, and in a moment they were inside the door of Mole's old home. Mole glanced around the old place. He saw dust laying thick on everything. He was the cheerless, deserted look on the neglected house, and collapsed on his chair and his nose in his paws.
Oh, Ratty, why ever did I do it? Why did I bring you to this poor, cold little place on a night like this? You could have been at the riverbanks by now, toasting your toast before a blazing fire.
Nonsense. What a capital little place this is. So well planned. Everything in its place. Come on, Mole. Fetch your duster and let's smarten things up a bit. Bustle about, old chap.
Encouraged by his inspiring companion, the Mole rose to himself and dusted and polished with heartiness, while Rat lit a cheerful fire. Foraging about the place, they managed to rustle up a tin of sardines, a box of Captain's biscuits, and a German sausage encased in silver paper. They had just got to work with the sardine opener when sounds were heard from the forecourt of scuffling feet and a confusion of tiny voices.
What's up? It must be the field mice. They come around carol singing at this time of year. They never turn me over. They always come to Moreland last of all, and they used to come for tea when I could afford it.
Well, it will be like old times to hear them again. Let's have a look at them.
They flung the door open, and there in the forecourt, lit by the dim rays of horn lantern, stood 8 or 10 little field mice in a semicircle, with red worsted comforters around their throats. As the door opened, the elder carrying a lantern said, "Now then, all together. 1, 2, 3.